Hello, and welcome to Message in the Middle with Marianne. We all know that life is hard, right? It's messy, it's unpredictable, but it can be wonderful all at the same time. My hope is that we can take a deep dive into self-development topics and explore life's lessons through book clubs, conversations, and interviews. And together, we can uncover the lessons that others have already learned to help us navigate this crazy, wonderful ride called life. Hello and welcome to Message in the Middle with Marianne, and today I'm super excited to bring back a fan favorite, Ashley McCombs Mizel. As some of you may remember, Ashley's from Kansas City, Kansas. She's married to her high school sweetheart. She's raising 3 young boys, and 4 years ago, out of nowhere, she discovered she had a disease called sarcoidosis, and she lost her vision. So Ashley, thanks so much for coming back and talking to me today. You were definitely a fan favorite, and I'm so glad to talk to you. You have some exciting news to share.
Thank you so much for having me back again. I really, really appreciate you.
So just to set the backdrop up for everyone, shortly after our last conversation, you were given a great opportunity to travel to Hawaii for minimal cost, I think, with your parents.
Yes.
And at first, you were debating how you could make it work. I think you didn't want to take your kids out of school. One of them maybe needed to be there more specifically. But long story short, you and your husband decided you should go, and he would stay home with the kids.
Yep.
So the first thing I want to dig into is knowing that you were struggling with kind of feeling guilty and thinking about going on this great trip and leaving your husband and kids. I know you were really torn, and I want to talk a little bit about how you felt leading up to the trip, but now looking back, I know you have a different perspective. Talk to me a little bit about that.
So, yes, I did end up going to Hawaii. When I first got approached with the trip from my parents, they were like, "Are you and your family interested in going? We're going to ask your grandparents to go too." And I was like, "Well, if you can get my popo, which is my grandpa, to say yes and agree to it, then absolutely, like, I'm for sure going to be there." Well, after my husband and I talked, and we ended up saying we need to keep the kids here in school and do a routine. And I finally decided to go just myself. I knew I had to tell my kids that I was going, but I didn't want to wait until the day before and just spring it on them. So they had like a few weeks to process it. When I first told them I was going, it was, "No, Mom, please don't go. We love you. We're going to miss you. That's too far away. La di da da da." But my husband just kept reminding them, like, "Mommy has been sick before and she's been in the hospital for weeks at a time. Like, and you guys are just fine here." But still hearing my kids say, "No, we don't want you to go," I mentally was like, "I can't do this. Nope, there's no way in heck I can do this." But then my therapist just reminded me, like, my husband is amazing. There are times where I accidentally get a little cold and I go to the hospital for that. And then they have to admit me for 5 or 6 days. And my husband just jumps into action. Like, that's what he does all the time. And that really is what he does all the time. He's always hands-on. I think the boys were just missing. We're going to miss just having me around. I finally got it through in my own head. I can do this. My husband, he's going to be great. The kids are going to be fine. Like, it's good. And then the day I was leaving, oh my goodness, I almost canceled. I was like, "I can't do this. Like, just take the money." It was only $497 round trip. So I was like, "I will eat the money. Who cares? Like, I just have to stay here." My husband was like, "No, Ashley, you deserve this. You've gone through so much. Go and relax." And I am so, so happy I did. It was the best experience, not only for me and my parents and grandparents, but also for my husband and 3 little boys. Like, they ended up having so much fun. It was actually mushroom season time here in Kansas. So you go morel hunting. And my husband was taking them over to my parents' house and in the woods in our backyard. And they were going mushroom hunting. And they would call us and FaceTime us. They were 5 hours ahead of us. So It was a big time change, but I always had to make sure like my phone was on because I did not want to miss a phone call. And that's what just gave me that sense of, we got this. I'm going to continue having a great trip. I am so, so thankful I took this trip. And my boys are happy I was gone. Pretty sure some of them like didn't want me to come back for a while. I was like, what? They're like, Dad doesn't make us do all that.
Of course he does, and he's a dad.
Uh-huh.
Let's unpack a couple of those things, though. So first of all, kudos to you for actually going to a therapist and talking about it and admitting that, right? Because I think
Right.
we all know the situation with mental health around the world right now. And
Yes.
listen, we all need a little help, and we need to bounce our ideas and concerns or blocks off people sometimes. So kudos for you for kind of talking about that in a mainstream manner. Like, so what? I went and talked to my therapist, and kudos to the therapist for making you see a different perspective, which was there all along.
Yes.
And lastly, but probably most importantly, you're so in the public eye now that I think we don't necessarily see how much your husband steps in and is part of everything, right? Because it's you and the boys doing a lot of stuff. And
Oh, yeah. He doesn't even have like Facebook or anything like that. I try and keep his privacy, and I don't post as much about him as I should, probably, as I want to, I guess I should say. He likes his privacy.
well, no, and I get that, right? There's different types of people, and this is something that you've fallen into and just are natural at, and people really enjoy and relate to you. But I think it also proves something else out, right? Everything we see on social media, it's like just a glimpse. It's not the whole picture. I think that's important too. So,
Absolutely.
right? So kudos.
100%. Yes. While I was laying on that beach, enjoying like the sounds and the waves and just embracing everything, my husband was here literally fighting with our almost 5-year-old. There's a lot of stuff offline that is going on that isn't always posted. Like, you are 110% correct.
And I think that's normal, but I think we forget. We all get sucked into the social media trap and we forget that there's a bigger picture out there. So kudos to him for being that support system in the background. After I met you last time, I thought about it a lot, and I thought about, of course you didn't sign up for any of this, but neither did he. So, and I know, we all get married and we say for better or worse, but not everybody does stick to that. So I do want to applaud him. Make sure he knows at least he's got one fan out here who applauds what he puts into this, because I'm sure that support goes a long way.
Oh, I got on there and I showed him a bunch of comments from everybody on Facebook. They were like, how could you leave your husband and go to Hawaii? Like, oh my gosh, I would never do that. Your husband, he should leave you. Like, you are so selfish and all this. And he was just cracking up. He was like, Ashley, you are not selfish. Like, we are a team. And I know when I need a break, you give it to me as well. So you go take your time. And I was like, oh, thank you. I had literally zero fear being so far away. I am so proud of my husband for just handling this all like a champ. It's a lot raising 3 little boys and then throwing in me being blind and everything. Like, the fact that he hasn't given up on me or our family just goes to show like he's a very special person, but he came from a very amazing family too. So they raised great kids.
Well, and you are too. So I think it's a great pair, but I just wanted to make sure I said that because I was thinking about it beforehand, and also let people know that guilt is normal that you felt before the trip, but the recognition that it's okay, and that time for yourself, for your own self-care, time to, rejuvenate your soul is so important to what you can actually bring back to the family. So I think that's a really important message.
That is 100% truth on that. I did not realize I needed a break. And after I came back, I was talking to everybody nicer. I wasn't snapping. And I sat back and I just recognized, man, I was so exhausted before Hawaii that I'm so thankful I took this trip when I did, because it's getting me super excited for summertime. And I needed that little like me time to be like, okay, now in 2 weeks when my kids are out of school, I'm ready. Like, I am so ready for the summer.
I love that. I love that. So, all right, let's switch gears a little bit. I want to talk about some of the amazing things that you did on this trip. So, the first one I want to highlight is the paddleboard. So when I saw you get out there and try paddleboarding, and wait, not just try, but actually stand up and balance on that board in the water, my mind was blown again because you continue to be this role model that pushes past all the barriers or the vision, no pun intended, of what we all think is possible. So tell me how it felt to you to get up there and conquer that and get on that paddle board.
So we were actually out at a sandbar, and my dad just so happened to mention how they had a paddleboard. And my mom actually grew up in Flagler Beach, Florida, before she joined the military and met my dad there. And she was actually on like the surfing team. So when my dad noticed the paddleboard, my mom was like, "Ooh, I really want to do that, but I'm too old." And I was like, "No, you're not, Mom." She goes, "Yeah, I can't really do that anymore. I bet I couldn't even get up there." I was like, "Yes, you can." And like, she really didn't believe in herself. So I was like, "I'm doing it. I'm going to do it then." And I didn't think she like, at first, I pretty sure she thought I was crazy. Like, there's no way my daughter's going to get up there and do that. And I did. And I did it because I wanted to show her, you're over here saying that you're old and you can't do it. I know you can do it, Mom. I'm over here thinking I can't do it personally in my own head, but I know deep down I have to try. As long as I try, that's all that matters. And man, when I got up there, I was shaking like a leaf on a tree, y'all. Like it was so amazing, just that feeling. And then even when I fell in the water, it felt so good. It was like, heck yes, this is freaking phenomenal. And then the next person was my mama, and she did amazing. And I was so proud of her. And I was like, look, we did it. Yay.
See, a role model. And speaking of your mom and sort of you guys doing these adventures together, so that brings me to the second thing. So you posted a video of you walking down this, I would say, pretty difficult trail that consisted of cliffs and rocks and
Yes.
drop-offs and inclines. And you did it. Your mom was with you, dad too behind you, but mom was with you. And I would say she gave you a little guidance in that she was saying things like, Ashley, stay a little bit to the right or feel the rock on your left. So she was giving you some guidance. But girl, I just have to say the obvious. You're blind and you were going down this crazy, crazy cliff. And I was thinking, so two things popped into my head. I'm going to out myself. When I went to Hawaii many years ago, I fell down a darn cliff like that.
My God.
Less than that. It was much less than that. And I sort of rolled down the cliff, and it's a big joke on my family still to this day. But how did you possibly do this when I know you had to be scared to death? And wait, one last thing. Dad says at the start of the top, he says, guys, this is on camera. He's filming it. And he says something like, I'm paraphrasing it, not exactly this, but he says something like, who thinks this is a good idea? But with sarcasm, like he did not think it was a good idea. And you're like, I do. We're going to do this.
Yep. And then my mom in the background singing Dumb Ways to Die.
Yes.
Oh, it was so funny. So that was actually, it's called the Black Hole. It's over by the North Shore. And when we first got over there, we thought it was just like a thing where you pull over to and you just look out and everything. Well, then when we were doing that, my dad was like, "Oh, there's people actually down there." I was like, "Say what?" He was like, "Yeah." I was like, "How can we get over there?" And he was like, "Oh, well, it's this really like hard thing. I don't think you could do it. Like, it's probably really difficult." And my mom said the same thing. And I said, "Well, challenge accepted. Let's go. Dad, you're the cameraman." And I will tell you, the pride I felt, because it wasn't just the pride of making it down there that I felt. My dad is someone I go to for a lot of things. My mom and I, we haven't always had that relationship. Like she was in the military and then she became a doctor and she was just always busy with that stuff, and that's okay. She provided great for our family. She did so amazing. She is amazing. I didn't have that strong of a relationship with her. I normally would have had my dad guide me, but I wanted to experience it with my mom because I wanted just to feel like we did something together, because I felt like I was a kid again on that vacation in a weird way. Like I was going back to just being a child And I just wanted to have those moments with my parents. And it was so amazing when my mom was, okay, we can do it. But I think it's really dangerous. I was like, let's do it. And I only slid one time. And I have this like, they think it's going to be like a scar now. I think it'll heal eventually. Thing on my leg. But I'm like, even if it doesn't, it's still going to remind me of such a great time because when we got down there, I was so proud of my mom. My mom did so good at directing me, and I need to trust her more. And I learned that when I was going down that and going up the mountain to get back to the car. Like I loved it. I was so proud of her. I was so proud of me, and just how much stronger our relationship is that I didn't process at the time. I fully trust her to walk me.
And she did do a phenomenal job. What I thought was pretty amazing, because I thought about it from a parent's set of eyes, is would I have been able to do it as hands-off-ish as she was, yet as supportive as she was? It was the perfect level of guidance because you did it yourself, but she was there for you every single step.
She has learned.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the biggest part with me getting sick and stuff is my mom always wants to help, always wants to help. She just wants to try and fix everything. But I'm someone that I don't want you to try and do that for me. Like, I appreciate it so much, but let me mess up. And she's so good at that now. Like, she's finally there. When we were in Hawaii, we actually went to the swap meet, and it's at the Aloha Stadium. And it's just like a bunch of people go there and they have a ton of stuff for sale, all for really cheap. So when we were going there, we were with my grandparents and parents. Well, it's just a big circle and everyone was stopping to look at random stuff. And I just kind of felt like a burden, to be 110%. Like, I wanted them to be able to go and experience, like, get the shopping stuff that they wanted to get. So everyone was just like at their own pace. Well, I finally was just like, because I noticed my mom was just staying back with me. And I just said, mom, like, go. I want to see if I can rely on other people around me just to help me. And I had my Orcam with me. And I know she was super nervous, and I could tell. This is the funniest part. I went into this one area and I was buying the kiddos like this Hawaiian candy and snack stuff to take back home. And I knew my parents and stuff had to have been way down ahead of me because I was taking forever. And by the time I came out and I was about to run into something like a pole or something, my parents both just pop out of nowhere and they're like, "Oh, hey, Ashley." And I'm like, "You guys are funny. You obviously have been watching me." Like, oh my goodness. But it's them letting me feel a little bit of independence because that's something I tried to explain to them. I know it's scary for them because if one of my kids lost their vision and they were going around in this world, I would be so worried about them.
Yeah.
But as an adult that lost her vision, I had so much independence before that it is so difficult not having that independence to, like, I had my parents try to teach me how to get from our condo down to the beach when we were in Hawaii. And my dad was like, I got up one morning super early because I was like, I'm going to go down there because they taught me how to do it. And next thing you know, I turned the corner and my dad was right there. And he was like, "Oh, what are you doing?" And I told him, and he was like, "Oh, well, it's raining." I was like, "Oh, okay." I was like, "Maybe I'll try it tomorrow morning." He goes, "Well, I'm always the first one up. Don't worry, Ashley." And I was like, son of a gun. So that night I got on the weather app and I checked the time for the sunrise so I could get up and go over there, like, to the beach by myself. Cause I really just wanted a moment to myself, like, without feeling like somebody has to be there. So I heard them snoring and I snuck out super, super early. It was like 5:30 in the morning. And I went down to the beach myself.
Wow.
And I sent them a text, and I even told them I was on a Facebook Live. And I was like, "Don't worry, Dad and Mom, if you're on here listening to me, I'm 70 steps away straight from the gate."
So, do you ever get scared? Your spirit is just amazing to me. And the fact that you could even, I don't know. And maybe it's the fact that you're wanting that independence back, but I can't really process. Of course, I'm not in your shoes. So I just can't get my head around feeling like I would want to do that. I feel like I might be scared. How do you keep going and, like, challenging yourself and not even stopping?
Nothing is as scary as when it was gray in my eyes. Like, that was the scariest time in my life that now I'm not really scared of much, to the point of I will ask anybody. If I hear somebody, I will ask for help. Unfortunately, in Hawaii, they're not people that go out of their way like here in the Midwest. A lot of people don't say hi or anything. So, which was really hard for me because like I would be walking and if I one time I made a mistake and I went to the first gate when I was trying to go down to the beach. And if you go out the first gate and you walk and follow the sidewalk, it actually falls off on water on both sides. So there's fish, catfish on both sides of you if you go out the first gate.
Shoot.
Yeah, I almost landed in that thing. So I was like, how are these people around me not even stopping me? You know, like if we were in Kansas, someone would probably say, hey, excuse me, ma'am. Just like today, I was at the post office and I ran into this thing and this lady was helping me. But like in Hawaii, they really don't. I really didn't know it. They didn't know how to speak English because a lot of people from all over the world come to Hawaii.
Yeah. Well, that, and I would also say it's funny. I was talking about this with somebody yesterday here on the East Coast. I think you might remember I used to travel for work back and forth to Kansas City for like 20 years. And there is a considerable difference in the temperament and the friendliness in the community in the Midwest versus other places. You guys are so, so lucky.
We are.
I don't think people really realize it. Yeah.
I'm serious. Like I can go anywhere here in Kansas and feel like obviously I know bad stuff happens and I get those vibes sometimes, but like the simplest things as going out to a store and having somebody, you know, someone's walking past you, but just hearing that hello for them to even recognize that I'm still a person is like, I love it. I love it a lot.
Yeah. Again, you really, really are lucky. I remember I went to a Chiefs game out there. This was before the Chiefs won, but it was a few years ago. And when we were all coming out of the stadium, I literally like had to stop and just take it all in because people were like, oh no, you go, you go, you go. Like so polite and so kind. And here on the East Coast, I have to say people are like, let me go, I want to get out of it. You know what I mean? It's a totally different atmosphere. So suck that up, enjoy it. But yeah, I think for that reason that it's just very different in the Midwest, but also to your point, there's a lot of people that speak different languages. I noticed that as well, because I think it's a place, you know, people come from all over to go to. So that's probably part of it.
Absolutely. It was funny when I was trying to make my way up from the beach one time, this old man just stopped me. He goes, ma'am, I've been watching you this whole entire time. I watched you come down here. I watched you set yourself up. I watched you get into that ocean. I watched you lay there for about 2 hours. And I've just been wondering, are you going to make it back to your gate? Like, how are you going to know which gate is yours? And it was hilarious because I was like, here, sir, like, let me show you. So I took him over and I showed him how the plants changed, like against the wall where the gate goes.
Wow.
So I knew by the plant which gate was mine. And if I didn't even want to, I didn't have to feel them by the end of the trip because I could just smell it and I would know where I was at.
That is so amazing to me. And it's actually a great segue to my next question. So not a lot, but some people may ask, why would you bother to climb all the way down that cliff? Or why would you bother to go to Hawaii in the first place? You can't see, so what's different, right? I literally know.
I got asked that question. I literally got asked that question.
And I'm telling you that because honestly, when I was talking to my husband about you over the weekend, he asked me that question too. He's like, that's a lot. I showed him the YouTube video of you going down the cliff. Because of course, like I said, we have this joke about me falling. So anyway, and he did ask that question. And I started thinking about it. I'm like, I bet you a lot of people ask that question. I think I know part of the answer, but I want to hear you give us that answer.
You can see Hawaii without your vision so much that it is insane. I remember when the first comment on my Facebook came to that. Why are you going to Hawaii? Like that is just for like your vision. You want to be able to see and everything. And I actually believe that when I first heard that, I was like, oh my gosh, are these people serious right now? Like, am I really not going to enjoy this? Girl, they were so wrong. You can go to Hawaii and you can still see without your vision.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, the smells, the sounds, everything. It is just, it's so beautiful. It's so peaceful. It really, truly is. But yeah, you can definitely go to Hawaii. You don't have to have your vision. Like part of the reason why I went down to the black hole to that cliff thing is just because, yes, it's probably a beautiful view with your vision from the top. But in order for me to see it, I have to go down there and really, really see it and embrace it by touching it, by feeling the sand, by the smell. Like
Mm.
that's me seeing what everybody else is seeing by standing up top.
I think it's so important for people to hear you say that. And I think that, those of us that are not hearing impaired, visually impaired, whatever, all have all of our natural senses, you don't realize that the others can sort of step up and step in. It's sort of like your husband
Yep.
stepping in when you step away, right? Somebody else fills the role. And I think obviously it's not exactly the same, but when you lost your vision, you told me about this when we talked last time, all your other senses get heightened and you have learned how to make them work for you. And I just think it's so important for people to hear that, so that when maybe they're starting out in a journey like yours, they're not in that same place of, I'll say despair, as you were initially thinking, sort of everything's done. I'll never enjoy anything again.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
can.
So they have Pearl Harbor over there. And I, at first, like, I did not want to go to it because I was like, that doesn't really seem interesting to me. I remember learning about it, but I came to Hawaii to like lay out on the beach. But then I kept hearing my grandpa talk about it like the first 2 or 3 days we were there. And I was like, how am I going to be able to enjoy this? Like, it's like a museum and then it's basically all visual. But after hearing him like just being so much like, oh, can you imagine sitting here December 7th, 1941, and all of a sudden bombs coming over? And I'm like, okay, girl, like Popo, you are really making me think more about it. I was like, I'm going to go with you guys just so I can try to, I don't know, like try and see it in a different way. Cause I'll be real. I was skeptical going to Pearl Harbor without any vision just because everything is visual. I assumed it was, but definitely it was not. I will tell you, when I went over there, first we got on this little boat and we went over, it was like the USS Arizona. It's the boat that sank down and it had like thousands of people that died under there. And it had still some of the boat there in it. When you got off the boat and you actually went to the memorial, you could feel the energy. You didn't need your vision. You could literally feel all the emotion from everybody. It was very quiet. It was heavy, if that makes any sense. And then when you walk all the way in back, they have a huge wall filled with everybody's names. And like me being me, I wanted to feel it. I just wanted to know what it felt like. And I asked one of the officers, and he was like, yes, absolutely. So I went over there and I was feeling it. And it just made me imagine this whole entire wall. And that was a vision in my head that made me so appreciative for going, just because I learned and I took so much more than I ever imagined from that trip we did that day.
I love how you get something out of everything you do and put a different perspective on it. It really does give people hope and tells them to open their eyes. Again, no pun intended,
Yeah.
but open their eyes to things don't always have to be the way we envision them, right? There can be other ways to do things or to get something out of it. So I really appreciate that. And I have a question that I didn't plan to ask you, but I've really been pondering it since we first met and I first started following you. And it might be a hard one, so I'm almost hesitant to ask, but I really want to know if you think it's better to have lost your vision when you had your vision for all those years, or do you, and there's no better, I get it, but the difference to me between having it and then losing it and not having it, I was trying to imagine which one would be worse. And when you just talked about sort of envisioning that wall full of names, I'm thinking, I wonder if she can do that because she's seen things like that, right? You've seen that before. You had all these years.
Yes.
But I wonder if somebody who never had their vision would be able to envision that. Does that make sense?
110%. So I've asked people who are visually impaired from birth, are you happy with being born without any vision, or do you wish that you had some like me? And their response all the time is, I don't know any different. And then I go to my response, because I lost my vision at 28. I am thankful I had 28 years of vision because I know what things are. But at the same time, I feel completely robbed because I know what I had and it was taken away. And when people are born blind, they don't really know what they're missing out on. Personally, for me, I feel like I had 28 years of vision and now I got robbed of knowing what everything looks like now. Um, I'm thankful for the 28 years and I'm thankful for the memories that I have to help me imagine what stuff is. But it's really difficult because if I was born blind, then I wouldn't know any different. So I feel like I'm just missing out on what I used to do and what I used to actually know was around me.
Yeah. So you said what I thought you would say. I mean, obviously there's neither one is great and neither one is something anybody would want, but or wish on themselves. But yeah, I could see both sides of it. I could see the I don't know what I don't know, and I could see the being so thankful that I know what a sunrise looks like. I know what a tree looks like. I know, all the things.
Yeah.
So it's definitely, I'm sure, a mixed bag. Thanks for answering that. I've really been wondering that. I'm sure other people are as well.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Going back to how you seem to be completely fearless and will try anything and these adventures in Hawaii. So you also decided to take a solo ride on the elevator.
Oh my gosh. Oh.
So tell us about that, because obviously some of the listeners might not know. So tell us about that little experience, and then I have a question.
My dad and I went to the military base because I needed to do something. And when we came back, I said, I'm going to run up to the room. I'll meet you right back down here. He was like, okay, that's fine. Do you think you can do it? I was like, I can do it. So I get to the elevator, and in order, like when you're in the elevator, you have to scan your card and then hit the floor number for the elevator to even like move. So I thought I had done that. And next thing you know, the elevator starts moving up, and I'm like, perfect, like no biggie, nothing. And I go to get off the elevator and I can feel people passing me. And I'm like, that's kind of weird. I haven't ran into anybody on our floor. Weird. Well, then I turned the corner and I counted how many ways down. I'm standing there trying my key. I call my dad. I'm like, Dad, why is the door not opening? How do I make sure I'm doing this correctly? He's not answering. So I'm knocking on the door. There's nothing. So then I finally ring the doorbell and this guy comes to the door and I'm just like, I am so sorry. He was like, ma'am, you're on the 10th floor. I was like, oh my gosh, y'all, I was so frustrated. And then when we were leaving, they were like, so how was your stay? How is everything? And my mom was just like, oh, it's so perfect. It's so this. And I was like, well, you guys have a beautiful place for someone with vision. But if you have disabled people, visually impaired, you don't have it set up. There's no communication in the elevator. Like, oh, well, Braille, everybody assumes that blind people should know Braille, but that's not the case. And you are going to have people get on elevators with disabilities, like who can't see. The guy ended up saying, oh, yeah, I totally get that. I understand that now. And then he was like, is there anything else you think we could correct? And then that's where my brain started really going. So then I'm like, yeah, actually, when I'm walking and I'm filling the gates and you have one huge leaf going outside the fence and I'm running into it every single time that should be clipped, like, yeah, clip your edges to where stuff isn't hanging over the fence or on their sidewalks. To most people, they can see it and move around. But they had like the palm trees and all the stuff that it was just like at height level. So everybody else is dunking to go under it. And I'm just running straight into it head on. It shouldn't be like that. In Kansas, you have to have it trimmed a certain height because people run into that. It's just little things like that.
So a couple of things jump into my head. There's probably an opportunity, some consulting opportunity there that you should think about, because I'm sure this isn't the only place, right? I'm sure there's probably a niche there and there's a need.
Absolutely.
But I think it also goes back to something you said earlier, and that people need to sort of open themselves up and think outside of the box.
Exactly.
Because my guess is that nobody's doing a walkthrough at these properties or at restaurants or anywhere and saying, what would this feel like for a blind person? That probably doesn't happen. It should. It probably doesn't. It should also happen for what if I'm in a wheelchair, right? I mean, they just should be thinking outside the mainstream.
of what they assume people are like. I'll tell you, I use my hands for so much. So another instance was going down the hallways. I have to fill the wall. So I like know where I'm at, Well, and then when I get in my condo area, our condo was so nice. It was like a 3 bedroom, 3 bath thing. It was awesome. But like they had pictures on the walls. And when you are visually impaired, you don't want stuff height level on the walls. Like I fill the walls and those things come crashing down. When I'm going across something, I am going to take down all the pictures on the wall, move them a little bit higher up, or make them to where they don't take or fall off the wall.
Yeah, it's sort of simple changes, but I think that it's just probably education. So again, I think there's probably another little niche there that you could you could think about consulting on, but
Yeah.
maybe take a lot of trips and give them some feedback.
That ain't no joke. Holy moly. Even going on an airplane, like teaching people, like my grandma, she was in shock. She was like, how do you have so much confidence just going up there and having your ticket out and just getting on the plane? And I'm like, you guys, because literally, like, if I mess up, someone's going to correct it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to mess up too much. I feel like you have to have confidence to get anywhere nowadays in life. If I didn't have the confidence to try and maneuver my way through an airport or try and get up to where I need to be, I literally would probably just be left by myself. I wouldn't have gone on that trip. I wouldn't be doing all this extra fun stuff that I do, but I have to want to.
And you do continuously keep challenging yourself. And from what I can tell, there's nothing stopping you. So my next question as we start to get close to the end is, what do you see for yourself? If you look forward, and I know there was a time where you couldn't really envision the future, but if you look forward about, I don't know, 2-3 years, what do you see Ashley doing?
Oh, I see myself speaking live in front of people. That is my next goal, is going to conferences and just bringing awareness, going and traveling for like OrCam and showing people how to actually use it and just helping the veterans get one. I am a huge, huge advocate for the veterans, with my family all being in the military and my mom being retired Army. And now that she works up at the VA, it's like, man, I want to help them so much. And that's my next goal, is just bringing more awareness to them and trying to help out them and being able to read and just do the simple things in life that everyone takes for granted.
Yeah. Talking about simple things in life that people take for granted, you have a new hobby that it's so fun to watch. What's this thing about fishing?
Girl, oh my goodness. I love it. I can fish better now than before. I'm telling you, I can feel those fish even hit my line. And I'm like, girl, it is so much fun. I try to get out there about once a week just to make my soul happy. But the wind has kind of been a little crazy lately. And one of my kids, he loves fishing. So he's been getting really mad at me. Last week, I went fishing and Mike dropped me off at my parents' house after we dropped the kids off at school. And my dad and his friend Curtis, we went out to Clinton Lake catching some walleye. And I knew those kids were going to be getting out of school here shortly. It's not even bothering me. He's just going to pick up the kids, bringing them home, starting dinner. And the next thing you know, I get like a call at like 5:30, and it was my son Bentley. Where are you, Mom? I thought you were going to be done fishing by now. And I'm like, sorry, buddy. I'll come back. He was like, I want to go. So we're really ready for school to be out so we can hit the lake more often, because fishing makes my soul so happy. And it's even better because I get to do it like with my best friend, AKA my dad. And it's just so much fun. I love spending time with him.
I love that you love spending time with him. I love that you continue to just do things that we wouldn't envision you being able to do. I love that this sort of takes us full circle, because spending time on that boat with your dad and his friend without the kids, I mean, again, and you said it fills your soul. It's all about taking time for self-care and not feeling guilty and refueling yourself
Yes.
before you try to give to everyone else.
And the plus side is, like what I was trying to explain to my husband, is I'm bringing food home for y'all too. So simmer down. I'm bringing meat home. Calm down.
They're all just jealous.
Oh, they are. Oh my goodness. I just keep reminding them we have less than 2 weeks of school left, and then summertime, and we will be hitting the lake.
I'm sure that they can't wait, and I can't wait to see what you guys do. I'm sure you will share that with us.
Yes.
Ashley, is there anything after this amazing trip you had and sort of, the confidence in these adventures that you showed and being able to kind of achieve all this stuff, is there anything that you learned that you want to share and put out there that you haven't said?
I learned that I am scared of the silliest things that there's no need to be scared of. I was scared to take the trip. I'm glad I took the trip. I'm so glad I took the trip. I am so appreciative for the memories I made with my family and the memories my boys made with their dad, just one-on-one. Take the trip. That's my advice for anybody, is take the trip. Oh man, make it work. This is something I've processed. Those memories are priceless. You go to the store and you like go shopping or something. Yeah, it makes your like heart happy, but then it's like, those aren't really good, like memories you're getting out of it. You ordered a new shirt. Oh yeah, I get to wear a new shirt, like that's cool. No, like going on trips and just being with family, that makes my soul the happiest.
Yes, experiences. You've learned that earlier than most, but yeah, the experiences mean so much more than some material thing.
Yes. And I'm just so, so thankful for you having me on here and being able to share my journey going to Hawaii and reminding people that they can do hard things, because I know my parents were like iffy on the whole going down the cliff thing, climbing. But once I did it and I got back, they were just as proud and happy as I was. So, and the people around us were too. They were like, oh my gosh, I've never seen a blind person do that before. And I'm like, well, remember, you can do hard things.
I love that. And that's a great note to stop on. Guys, remember, you can do hard things. Be brave, lean in, give time to yourself. All great lessons. Ashley, thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Message in the Middle with Marianne. If you enjoyed the podcast, please take a minute to share it and write a review, as it helps bring new listeners to our audience. If you'd like to keep the conversation going between episodes, please join us at Facebook group Message in the Middle with Marianne.